Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Derek Karpel. I am the owner and principal of Karpel Insurance, a full-service insurance brokerage here in Los Angeles.
I'm Derek Karpel, owner and operator of K.I.G. Property Management, a real estate investment and management firm.
We're joined today by our good friend Mike Newhouse. Mike is a Los Angeles attorney, a real estate broker, a law school professor, and longtime community leader with a strong background in housing, land use, and environmental issues. We're so happy to have Mike with us today because Mike is a candidate for California State Senate. We have a primary election here in California on June 2nd, and we're so proud to be supporting Mike. Mike has served on local planning commissions and neighborhood councils, where he's been involved in shaping development while balancing environmental concerns with the need for more housing and greater affordability. Mike is running as a common sense Democrat, earning the endorsement of a diverse group of people and organizations, from city and state leaders to business and environmental groups and numerous law enforcement agencies. When he's not working, Mike enjoys spending time with his family, his dog, and playing guitar and bass for his band, The Potential Suitors. So welcome, Mike Newhouse. We're so excited to have you here with us today and to be in your awesome home studio. This is fantastic. Thank you.
Yeah, it's fantastic to have you here. Thanks so much, Derek. Really appreciate it. Thanks, Jared, for coming out. It's really great to see you guys. And it's great to have you in my space. You know, this is my rehearsal studio. This is my home office. This is campaign headquarters. This is where the magic happens. It's a special place for me, so it's really great to have you in my home.
It's very cool, and it really reflects, I think, the person that you are, and I think the senator you will be for the state of California. Yeah. But before we get to that, I'd actually love for people, I mean, we've known each other for a little while. I'd love to get our audience to just get a sense of who you are, kind of where you grew up, and how you got to this place to where you are today.
Yeah, well, you know, it's interesting. People come at politics for a lot of different reasons, I think, right? And for me, it's been for free and for fun for about 30 years is about the best way to put it. I was walking down Abbott Kinney one day about, close to 30 years ago. There was nowhere to throw away trash or to recycle anything. And I said, you know what, I'm going to run for that Venice Neighborhood Council, try and force somebody to put some trash cans around town. Just something basic, simple stuff that government should do. I ran as a write-in, got elected. Next time around, I got elected president, and I was president of the Venice Neighborhood Council for 2 terms. And that's when I just really dug into, the homeless issues we have here in Venice, right? The wealth inequality issues we have, the difficulty it is to open a business and keep a business going, right? How difficult it can be to raise a family. I've got 2 sons. My boys are 15 and 18. My wife and I have been married for 24 years. We built a life here. We built a community in Venice. But, you start looking around about all the things that could be better. And I think some people decide to put their efforts into that. And like I said, I've been doing that for about 30 years. And when this seat opened up, especially in the current affordability or lack of affordability environment we have here in California, it really motivated me to run. I didn't, I grew up in sort of a tough environment, I guess you'd say, in terms of, family sort of lost everything when I was about 12 years old, lost our home. We were evicted. My family got evicted 5 times in high school. My father spent time, in and out of jail, had a lot of mental health issues, addiction issues. We'll talk about that in some other context later, I think. But it really motivated me to run in this environment because there are so many people that are experiencing that difficulty to make ends meet that I've lived, that I know. To me, this isn't an abstraction. To me, this isn't, hey, you're hurting, I'm not, but really I want to help you. This is, hey, I've lived it. I know what it's like, to start working sweeping floors at 15 years old in the local movie theater to, help pay rent. I know what it's like to work my way through college as a carpenter. I luckily had a union carpenter for a grandfather. He taught me his trade. I was a wood shop kid throughout school. I'm very, very passionate about vocational classes in schools. We'll talk about that in a little bit later as well. I think we've lost that and we got to get back to it. Yeah. But that allowed me to work my way through USC to make ends meet. I wouldn't have gone to college if I couldn't swing a hammer. And I still remodel houses, on the side. It's still part of what I do. So having those skills, fighting for those skills, fighting for working people, fighting for small business people, and really just rebuilding California. We are the best state in the country, but we're falling apart. And we need people in Sacramento who are just going to focus on those every day of the week and twice on Sunday issues first and foremost. Most of us believe the same thing about our California values, about tolerance, about being open to a person, loving who they love, wanting to be who they want to be, wanting to live the life they want to live, and we should champion that, and I think most of us do. But who's going to really focus on helping you make ends meet.
You know, for folks who maybe forgot fifth grade civics, tell us a little bit about what is the role of the California Senate? And we'll talk about how you specifically have the skills and qualifications and so on. But I'd love to, you know, what does the Senate actually do? How does it integrate with greater California politics, local politics here in Los Angeles and beyond?
Well, let me tell you, Derek, how I first learned this lesson, actually. It wasn't fifth grade civics, it was eighth grade civics. I had a great teacher in eighth grade social studies who said our project for the semester is going to be writing a bill, lobbying to run that bill, and get that bill passed in Sacramento. And we're going to choose 3 to go up there and actually testify on the bill and get it passed. And it was the first drought-resistant plant bill in the state of California. It was the first zero-escape legislation. We wrote it in my 8th grade social studies class out at Suzanne Middle School out in Walnut, California, where I grew up. And it said all government-owned buildings need to be landscaped with drought-resistant plants. This was in the late 80s. We were starting to have some big issues with that, water usage, so we figured we'd help that way. I was one of the 3 that got chosen to go up to Sacramento. We testified in front of Senator Ralph Dills, who was a legend. At that time, he must have been 100 years old, but obviously a legend up there. Got to testify before the state Senate and really learned how that all worked throughout the semester. We got it passed, and I kind of had the bug ever since. And for folks that are wondering, back to your original question, what does a state senator do? Here it is in a nutshell. We live in the 5th largest economy in the world. By the way, we used to be 4th, now we slipped to 5th, and it's going to start mattering when we slip to 6th, 7th, and 8th. We'll talk about that later and some of my motivations again economically. But you've got 40 million people and only 40 senators. Each senator represents 1 million people, and to put that in context, every member of the U.S. House of Representatives, as you probably know, only represents 800,000 people. So it is a massive job that unfortunately most people don't even know who their senator is or what they do. But I promise you that if you live in this district, what your next senator is going to do is going to matter to you, but so is what the senator in San Francisco does, or the senator in the Central Valley does. So getting involved and knowing who not only represents you, but who else is running for those precious 40 seats that really control everything in your daily life. Local government controls a lot of it, but state government can usurp that local power, and sometimes in a very dangerous way. We'll talk about some of that as well in terms of land use and planning laws that I'm very passionate about as well. But you need to make sure you know who's running, because you know each one of us will represent 1 million people in a very, very large geographic area. So it's very important.
What are some of the greatest challenges that you're seeing here, particularly in Southern California, or even California in general? And how does that kind of coincide with your intent to address those challenges?
We have an absolute crisis of an ability to build anything we need in this state, but especially housing. The affordability crisis when it comes to affordable housing and housing at all levels is absolutely real, because we won't get out of our own ways to do that. But what you got to get down to is, how do we solve that problem? And one of the problems we're seeing, and one of the things that I strongly want to be an opposite voice on, is this idea such as, let's talk SB 79 or SB 9, when the state is saying, you know, at a state level, we're going to mandate that certain developments up to certain heights are by right, whether your locality or your jurisdiction wants it or not, right? And what you see in that is that, you know, you can build a 5 to 9 story building in a single family neighborhood, right? Which just simply isn't fair to people living in a single family neighborhood.
True.
And mostly, what does that mean? That means working class neighborhoods that have single family neighborhoods that people have worked their butts off for years to get, or maybe been passed down generationally. And at the end of the day, in Gardena, Lomita, Torrance, these areas of my district, not the rich areas of the district where, quite frankly, these laws don't affect them at all geographically. It's going to hit working class neighborhoods hard. It's going to cause that displacement, that gentrification that hurts working class neighborhoods. But we don't have to build there. We need to be looking at all this retail, office, mixed use we have, which will never be fully occupied again since COVID. And we need a statewide adaptive reuse law, which says if you're willing to come into a building and turn it into housing, you'll be in there in 30 days. It is over the counter. You are outside of the normal entitlement process. And when I was on the LA City Planning Commission, I was very instrumental in help getting that passed through the city of LA. And recently, the city of LA now has a citywide adaptive reuse ordinance to encourage exactly that. I want to bring that to Sacramento. Urban infill, areas where we already have density, we have transit, we have walkability, we have services and infrastructure. and empty lots in between existing buildings. Let's do infill on that, right? And we're already seeing a lot of progress on that in Sacramento, and I want to continue that kind of progress. But realizing that we have an affordable housing crisis because we have a supply side crisis. Get out of the way, let the folks, a lot of the folks that endorse me, I'm endorsed by, you know, I'm proud to be endorsed by union contractors, by IBEW, by the people that are going to rebuild California. And the fact that they have faith in me to facilitate that is huge. And what will that mean at the end of the day? It'll mean more housing. It'll mean lower rents for people. People aren't spending 50, 60% of their monthly income trying to rent an apartment. And they're not having to be super commuters and drive 20, 30, 40, 50 miles each way to get to a job. They can now actually live somewhere close to where they work. So that's a huge issue. I think we have to be laser focused on that because it really is sort of a panacea for many of our ills, which is adding an affordable, not government subsidized affordable, market rate built by developers, incentivized to build good housing for people because it's profitable, right? And we have to do that because that's going to affect so many other things, all the way down to groceries, all the way down to your gas bills, your energy bills, et cetera, because you have more money available, right? That's number one. Number two is public safety. Look, this is, since time immemorial, people want safe neighborhoods. People in a modern society want to call 911 and have the police and firefighters be able to show up with proper resources, properly funded to be able to do their jobs. I take it very, very seriously, and it's a huge honor to me that I am so widely endorsed by law enforcement, whether it's statewide groups like PORAC and the Fraternal Order of Police, or the Torrance Police Officers Association, the Redondo Beach Police Officers Association, the Gardena Police Officers Association, the LA Airport Police. You get the point. I could go on and on and on. But I think they realize, and you know, my brother's a cop, been a cop for 20 years, and I very much value what law enforcement does, and I think that's important to most people, no matter who you are. When you call 911, you need it to be good to go, right? And that affects everybody: Republican, Democrat, poor, rich, black, white, brown, male, female, whatever your gender or sexual orientation is. You want somebody on the other line to be able to send help when that happens, and I think that's really, really important. What's also huge are environmental issues. Look, you cannot deny that this district runs from Malibu, the entire beach, all the way down to Palos Verdes. Yeah. It has the Ballona wetlands. It has the Santa Monica Mountains, and in a world of increasing climate change, and there no longer being a fire season, there's just fire risk. We saw what happened in the Palisades in Malibu and Altadena, and every year it's just another community that's devastated. Having somebody like myself, who my major in college was environmental science, my law degree is in natural resources law, and I've been a practicing environmental lawyer for 25 years in the California environmental quality, or CEQA space, in the California Coastal Act space, and also with toxic soil remediations. A lot of cases where my clients are trying to get the soil clean so they can then build housing, obviously on that spot. Oftentimes, those great corner lots that used to be gas stations, right? It's a big part of it. So having somebody who hits the ground running on those issues, who understands water issues, who understands air issues, who understands climate change, right? Who understands building in the coastal zone, who understands wastewater treatment. These issues are huge. Who understands energy? We have got two oil refineries in this district, right? You don't want to have to learn that on the job. You want to have many decades of experience in that area, and that's huge too. So I think those, in sort of a 30,000-foot view, are the three main issues that we're really looking at in California. And I think two other things that go along with those, which we should I think always have to be forefront in the conversation. Small businesses, 20 employees or under, make up 90% of the state. If you go up to 50 employees or under, it makes up 95% of the businesses in this state. Those businesses employ 60% of the people, right? I have been a owner of two businesses for 20 years, and I guess I sort of have a third business in the sense that, my wife and I buy old beat up homes, and I go in there and I GC them myself, and I still swing a hammer, and we're housing providers, and landlords ourselves, obviously. It is too hard to open a business. It is too hard to keep a business going, as you both know, as small business owners. We are losing too many businesses to other states. And we need to, I only have to say, joking to people, one of the things I'll champion in Sacramento is those goofy ads that go out all over the country saying California is open for business. We don't have any of those ads, right? But you always see New Hampshire, open for business. Texas, open for business. Tennessee, come on in, open for business. We need to let the country and the world know we are back to being open for business. Start a business here, bring a business here, get your butt back here. We're going to incentivize it for you. We need to make that really clear. And then what goes along, I think, in the nexus of housing and public safety is the homelessness issue. Right. You know, I live here in Venice, outside of Skid Row. You could argue Venice is the epicenter of homelessness, or was the epicenter of homelessness. You know, Tracy Park has done a great job here in CD11, really getting that cleaned up and doing everything she can, even though she's really operating on an island in many ways in City Council. But we have to be honest with ourselves. And I say this as a Democrat, and I say this proudly as a Democrat. And no other Democrat in this race will say this, though many Democrats, including even the governor, are saying this. Nobody else in this race wants to say this except me. We got $24 billion. Shelter, interim housing, permanent supportive housing, addiction treatment, mental health treatment. We not only have to do what we're doing, but we have to double and triple those efforts, and we have the money to do it. We now have the care courts as well to help treat people who are mentally ill and can't make decisions for themselves. That is not a criminal court. It's not a civil court. It's separate. It's made for this specifically. We have to also say streets are not for living, and we have to have a statewide anti-camping ban for the good of people whose lives we have to save, and for the good of businesses and communities that are being destroyed by this epidemic in the wealthiest country in the world and the 5th largest economy in the world. We just have to get comfortable saying what traditionally a lot of progressives on the very far left, well-meaning as they are, have not been able to bring themselves to say, which is, look, if you can't make a decision to accept the services to save your own life, then we can go through the care court where there's a judge, where you have an advocate, where there's due process, where a family member or a treating physician can ask for an involuntary treatment to not only commitment to not only save your life, but to save our communities.
You know, we have this inability just to be honest with each other and to speak in adult terms as to what's going on, how are these challenges coming about, and what are real solutions, not pie in the sky. Right. You know, we want everyone to be successful here, but it's just not going to be the case. Right. So what can we do? What trade-offs can we have so we can take people out of the streets, put them in better places to live and so on, and not just let people die on the streets, and have those disrupt people's. I mean, we manage properties where you've got homeless encampments right out front, and it's a constant issue.
And squatters constantly. And
And it's affecting hardworking people. You know, no one wants to come home from a hard day's work and then have to deal with homelessness. And the other thing you talked about was crime. And I wanted to ask you, do you feel like California is on the precipice of losing some of those basic systems? Calling 911. We spoke to a friend recently on last month where he had to call. It was on 911. It was on hold for 30 minutes.
Oh my God!
Before anyone picked up the phone. It wasn't like, could you please hold? It was 30 minutes before anyone ever got on the phone. Wow. I always think about we talk about countries falling apart or the states falling. Whatever. That's hyperbole. Right. But when we have basic systems like 911 not working, is that truly a symptom of a greater problem? And kind of what are your thoughts on that and how to fix that?
I think it is a symptom of a larger problem. And the way I most think about it is I'll have conversations with well-meaning people that are on what I think is a pretty far fringe end of the argument, where they are talking about whether it's a wholesale defunding of police, which most people don't go that far. But you see a lot of people in our city council, a lot of people in Sacramento, people in my race who are saying we should be funding police less. We should be shifting those services to non-police workers, social workers, and everything in between, and that somehow is going to make the problem better. I respectfully disagree with that. I think that our current levels of funding law enforcement at almost every level are too low. We don't have enough police officers. It's not safe for police officers. It's not effective to be able to respond in a timely manner when you get called and when something happens. And it is terrible for recruitment of future officers. One of the biggest problems we're having at every single level is we're getting early retirements. We're losing people. The academies, if we're lucky, are half full. People don't want to become cops anymore. And when I grew up, hey, look, when I graduated Diamond Bar High School in 1992, man, half of my buddies became cops and firefighters. Mm-hmm. It was a profession that, you know, their dads had done, or their uncles had done, or guys in the community, all our coaches had done. We looked up to cops. Cops were great. They were part of the fabric of our community. And somehow along the line, we've lost that narrative and decided to vilify a group of people that first of all, it's not productive to vilify, but number two, it's just not right to vilify. These are people that are risking their lives, could be doing a lot of other things with their lives, and to jeopardize funding for those sources is, I think it's going to lead us to a very dangerous place, and I think it's already starting to, right? One of the basic things that organized societies have had since the beginning of time were people to enforce laws.
Absolutely.
Right? You have people to make the laws, you have people to interpret the laws, you have people to enforce the laws. If you have a breakdown in either of those systems, executive, judicial, you know, or legislative, you start to see a lot of the problems we're starting to have nationwide, statewide, and so I think we have to keep that in mind, and we have to remember that law enforcement should be our partners.
100% agree.
And it's a value I hold, you know, very dear. Yeah.
Same.
This is kind of an off the cuff, but somewhat related in the sense that it's a half-baked question here. But given our support for law enforcement, and given the fact that we live in a state that is very pro-immigration, sanctuary cities, et cetera, ICE are coming in, et cetera. Tell us a little bit about your stance as it relates to protecting those hardworking immigrants that are here legally versus those who are here trying to come infiltrate illegally. And then how you plan to, if at all, your vision or how you plan to work with the federal government vis-a-vis these issues.
We should have completely closed borders. You should have to go through a legal process to get here. If you are here illegally and committing crimes, you should be deported. Having said all that, I'm a little confused as to the debate we're having against the Trump administration right now, or MAGA folks, because last time I checked, 20 years ago, the most conservative president we had at the time, George W. Bush, and one of the most liberal senators we had ever had at the time, Ted Kennedy, got together and agreed that if you were here legally, paying taxes, obeying the law, you would have a path to work here legally and or to citizenship if you want it. How did we lose that consensus at the time and that narrative to what, with all due respect to people who support the president or support what ICE is doing, how did we lose that narrative to what I see as a political agenda? I don't want to talk about Donald Trump's political agenda or what ICE is doing, meaning not that I don't want to talk about it. I think that focus is wrong. I don't agree with what ICE is doing in our state. I don't agree with how Donald Trump is going about immigration. I think that there's a reason why Barack Obama deported more people than President Trump. Bill Clinton deported more people than President Trump. The issue is not deporting people who are not obeying our laws and who need to be deported. 100%. I think 99% of people agree with that. It's how do you go about it? And the problem with what we're doing right now is that it's not only in my mind not right the way ICE is going about its business, but it is gonna lead to economic suicide if we don't stop it. We're talking about all these houses we have to build, all these things we have to build. You wanna throw every undocumented worker out of California tomorrow? You never build another house. Service industry would collapse. We'd all starve. So even if you are cold-hearted about it and callous about it, or if you're just looking at it through the lens of arithmetic, which if you are, you are. But the point being is it is unproductive to be going about it this way. So the whole debate about sanctuary cities, and I think we have to cut through all that and say, close the border, deport criminals. If you are here contributing to the state of California, then here is the path to legalization. And if you do the things you're supposed to do, welcome to California. If you don't, then you have to leave. I think it's very, very simple. And I think most Republicans and Democrats probably agree with what I just said.
Why aren't we hearing that from each other's sides? Like, is it just social media? Is it the clickbait that's just more engaging that we want to just continue screaming at each other? Like, why? What you're saying sounds very reasonable. It's again, but why aren't we having these conversations with each other and just instead shouting?
Human beings love the quick fix. Right. Donald Trump says something, clickbait, put it on social media, it's outlandish and crazy, and there are certain people that love that.
Yeah.
Bernie Sanders, Mondami, DSA, AOC, say we're going to give you free food and a free house. Make all these things happen that most of us know. Whether or not they're a good idea or not, we can have that discussion separately. To actually make these things happen would take decades and a fundamental change in the way America has done business for 250 years and probably isn't happening anytime soon, but it feels good.
Yeah.
Feels good. It's like a big, juicy, sugary cookie washed down with a fat beer. I mean, it sounds great. I think that's the problem. But when people like us talk like this, and even when people on the more extreme ends get in the same room, it's funny how the conversation becomes this way. I've got friends who are DSA friends. I've got friends who are MAGA Trumpers. I got family members who are MAGA Trumpers.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And funny enough, when we all get in a room, there's no name calling when it's face to face. There's no real vilification.
It's easier to be a jerk behind a computer screen.
We all admit we maybe have some good ideas. It is hard. It is easier to be a jerk behind a computer screen. So
you were just acknowledging each other. Both sides have some good ideas sometimes.
But I'll tell you what, and it is. You get these inflection points in politics, right? I often joke with people, and I've probably joked with you on this. I do it so often. But people ask me in a nutshell, what are you? You left, you're right, you're moderate, what are you? And I say, I'm a 1992 Bill Clinton blue dog. It's the economy stupid Democrat.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it's shorthand by saying, there was a guy who was a Democratic core. He could support jobs and labor and infrastructure and progressive social values. He could be good on the economy. He could still be strong on maintaining safe communities and crime. But when the other side of the aisle had a good idea like welfare reform or workfare reform that he signed into law, he knew that was a good idea.
Yeah.
He was a Democrat who can say, the era of big government is over, right? And there are Republicans that fit into that mold as well. And we just have to get back to that spot where we can say, the number one guiding principle is the issue and how to fix the issue. The second or third or fourth or fifth guiding principle is what party do you belong to?
Yeah.
And that's just where we have to move. And this message is attractive. I mean, I've been doing this for, I've been out here for a year and a half campaigning in this district. And this district, I'll tell you, wants it badly. This district wants somebody who is more about issues and solutions than party. Party is important.
Yeah.
Republican Party's got a lot of problems right now. And the Democratic Party has a lot of problems right now.
Big time.
We've got to find somebody who's willing to make the issues first. Yeah.
All of us are in property management. I want Jared to talk to Mike about habitability challenges that we're seeing and insurance in California. I think those are things that really push a lot of business and people out.
100%.
So
The challenge that we are facing quite a bit is we have tenants who, you were talking about the social contract, right? The other side of the coin, the tenants who are not behaving in accordance with either the lease term or the social contract of being responsible tenants.
Yeah.
And oftentimes, and we have a current situation right now where we have a tenant who's on Section 8, doesn't pay anything in rent.
Right.
I walked into her unit, just random inspection. Of course, I gave notice, so it wasn't random, but inspected the unit, and I couldn't sit there, Mike, for more than 30 seconds. I had to walk out. The smell, the stench, chicken bones on the floor, cat litter everywhere. I mean, it was horrendous, right? Yeah. The kitchen sink was just filled with dirty dishes. Yet, she's suing us for cockroaches.
Yeah. Yeah.
And obviously, we've documented everything. We've sent our pest control guys out there. We've done everything we can responsively to respond to this. Yeah. And unfortunately, in suing it on a habitability claim, it's an exclusion to our insurance policy.
Yeah.
So now we're left with a mom and pop having to pay out of pocket for this defense and a potential judgment where we're left exposed.
Right.
In a situation that we did not create, and we're actually trying to solve, but for a litigious plaintiff situation.
These habitability claims that have become such a cottage industry, and I loop them in with a lot of the unmeritorious ADA claims,
Sure.
unmeritorious PAGA claims, employment claims, and that is not to say that there are not absolutely legitimate habitability claims out there and bad actors, and we don't want those people in our industry.
Yep.
There are bad actors who are not ADA compliant. There are folks who are not obeying labor and employment laws, and and plaintiffs should absolutely have a right to pursue those legitimate claims. 100%. Let me make that clear. But what you're talking about is a very disturbing trend.
Yeah.
And it's driven and it's created a very disturbing cottage industry, I think. So my thoughts on it are as follows. Let's just take habitability. You're probably aware of this. Assembly member Josh Lowenthal, who's the Assembly Speaker Pro Tem, he's number 2 in the Assembly. He's an endorser of mine, supporter of mine. He authored AB 1183 this session, which would have given a right to cure period to landlords. Tenant says, I've got cockroaches, got a problem. You say, okay. You get the complaint. You have 60 days to remediate it. Provided you do, you can't be sued. There's a safe harbor provision to go ahead and have the chance to do your job if there's an issue. Now, what you're describing sounds like there are circumstances where the tenant is causing a lot of it. That is a lot of the case. But let's go to just your normal, legitimate habitability claim. Hey, I just noticed there's a bunch of mold in my closet. Oh no, there is? Great. Thank you for telling us. Let us get in there and do our job. Go in there, get it tested, get it cleaned, get it remediated, put you up in a comparable apartment or hotel for the 2-week period while I'm doing it, move you back in. I've done all that in 30 days. We're square. Everything is good. As opposed to, hey, I'm lawyer for so-and-so. There's some mold. And by the way, I demand $500,000. All we're doing at the end of the day, and this is the conversation I like to have with tenants, the conversations I like to have with people on the tenants' right ledger of things, which is, the more that this gets abused, all you're doing to those small mom and pop providers is they're going to be forced to sell to big, huge, often foreign behemoths who really do not care about providing a clean, habitable, reasonable priced housing product like my clients do. Or you're going to get people ellising their properties. And at the end of the day, you ellis the property, you develop it, you sell it, you take it off the market. Those rent-controlled units, those rent-stabilized units that are so important of a lifeline to many families and tenants will be gone and gone forever.
No longer on the market. Yep.
Right. So the problem is I take a lot of pride in what I do in my position on these issues, because being pro-housing provider, being pro-landlord is being pro-tenant.
Yeah.
It feels real good, that sugary cookie, that nice beer, both at the same time, to say you're sticking it to the man and to the landlord, and you support. We can get to the billionaire's tax later. We can get to Measure ULA. We can get to getting rid of Costa-Hawkins and universal rent control and all these things that at the end of the day will not only punish and destroy mom and pop landlords, fine, but it's destroying tenants. At the end of the day, it's not sustainable what we're doing. And I'm very passionate about having that conversation with people on the other side of the fence on the issue. Rent control is here. It is what it is. Habitability claims that legitimate are what they should be. But we have to change direction on what we're going, or else the ones who are ultimately going to get it even worse are going to be the tenants. That's the irony about it all.
Yeah. Mike, you spoke earlier about Lowenthal's bill. I'd love you to talk a little bit more in depth on that one and what's happened to it.
Yeah, well, again, it was AB 1183. In a nutshell, it allowed for a period to cure, for a landlord to be able to say, okay, you've notified me of a habitability issue. I get a period of time to fix that, and provided I do that, and I'm a good landlord, I can't then be sued, which I think is right-headed. That gives a clean, habitable space. This is good for tenants. It's good for the landlord. It doesn't make it hard for the landlord to operate, and it doesn't create a cottage industry where we don't need one for lawyers. Unfortunately, it didn't even get itself out of committee. But what I've told Assembly Member Lowenthal and what I tell everybody is that the day I get to Sacramento, I will reintroduce that bill and do everything I can to get that through, because I think it's a really, really practical, excellent solution for landlords and just importantly tenants to be able to live in clean, habitable units. When something goes wrong, let your landlord know, let them have a chance to fix it, and it's a win-win for everybody.
Yeah. And how are those bills being killed? I mean, what do we?
Yeah, so
why? It would seem something so reasonable that we would all kind of agree with. What's killing them?
There are, I would say, folks on the extreme end of quote-unquote tenants' rights who give a lot of money to elected officials. There's really no other way to put it, I don't think, because it really is a common sense solution to a very real problem right now. It's a win-win, but there are just certain people that it doesn't fit within their political demographic. I think that's the biggest part of it. And when you start putting your political demographic in front of issues, I think that's when you get in trouble as a legislator. And that's something I just won't do.
Like ideology before issues.
You said it even better. You should be running. You said that a lot more succincally than I did.
Well, so let's talk about that a little bit, because I think that's a big concern for folks like us who kind of have those, traditional sort of California values, but we're seeing just this total, shift. That's coming that I think is a huge distraction from getting things done. Things like the DSA, for example. You're a Democrat. This state is dominated by the Democratic Party. Do you think that's an issue? Do you think we need more diversity of thought in our politics? Curious on your opinion on that.
I don't look at it so much as party makeup in the legislature or numbers. I don't know that the solution is more elected Republicans or more elected Democrats if you're on that side. I don't know that the mix matters. I think that the ideas matter. Derek, I think one of the things you and I bonded over was some of our stories about many of the traditionally progressive causes that you and I have supported for so long, but also have come to this realization that so many Californians have, that sometimes when you go too far in one direction, you have a lot of unintended consequences. And bringing that back is important. There's something in the legislature called the Mod Caucus, or the Moderate Caucus. It's made up of more centrist Democrats and very centrist Republicans. Quite frankly, it's mostly centrist Democrats. That's the first caucus I join when I get up there. Those are the people that I look to in terms of how I'd like to govern and how I'd like to build bridges between not just the two parties, but really just divergent thought. Right? There are good ideas coming from moderate Democrats. There are good ideas coming from moderate Republicans. And there are some good ideas coming from the DSA and coming from MAGA world. There are. And being able to keep yourself open to the idea that maybe somebody who you never agree with says makes sense, and great, let's get on it. Let's be Ted Kennedy and George W. Bush on the important issue of the Dreamer Act. Right? Let's do something special. Right? Let's be some of those Republicans that joined with Democrats in getting the Affordable Care Act, passed. Which, is it perfect? Heck no. Are there a lot of problems with it? Absolutely. Did it result in another 30 million people getting insurance? Yes. It's a step, right? That kind of thing.
Yeah, and I think whether it's on the extreme right, but I think we've definitely seen on the extreme left, it's like, it's more about the revolution than actually getting things done. And as long as there's a fight and someone to blame for all the problems, we're never really tackling substantive issues. We have to crawl, walk, run in many ways to get things done. And I think like if we just see, something's broken, then we have to damn the whole building. Like that's just not how I think that we're raised and how what we see for the future of California. You talked about bipartisanship, and I think something interesting happened over the weekend. I know that's a passion for both you and I. Your father struggled with bipolar depression, addiction. He was incarcerated, you mentioned, a few times, and eventually died by suicide.
That's right.
Terribly sorry for that. Mental health is obviously a challenge, and we see it everywhere. I think one conversation I'm seeing a lot more is about how young men just feeling disconnected from society. And when you have young men who are not participating in society, that's when we have a lot of troubles. Over this weekend, President Trump signed a bill to open more research into psychedelic therapy for mental health patients. particularly those veterans, and I think maybe even beyond. I'm curious, someone who's lived so many experiences. You talked about being evicted and so on, and mental health being a challenge in your own family. I'm curious your thoughts, and again, seeing the bipartisanship that's happening on such an important issue where psychedelic medicine, I think, can be something that can help people.
My understanding is that certain psychedelics have been being used successfully by treating physicians since the 1950s. And it's an area that obviously, because of legalities or state-to-state differences or federal illegalities, that's never been really allowed to be explored. But you do hear more and more physicians talking about the potential benefits to being able to do that. And I think as long as we are, obviously closely regulating that, this is physicians doing this is not people treating themselves, obviously. There's no reason not to explore that. So, again, it can be, and I think that's another good example of, can you, I am about as far from pro-Trump as you can be, but can I admit that sometimes Donald Trump or other people in the MAGA movement might have some good ideas? 100%. And I think when you close yourself off to that idea, that's a problem. I would say the same thing. I am about as far away from the DSA movement as you can get. Are there good ideas occasionally that come out of the DSA? Sure, of course. And being able to keep your mind open to what somebody else is saying is important. But anything that can, as you said, it's a personal issue to me. I've seen what mental illness does to people and to families. I feel proud to say, and I'm comfortable to say, that I think part of our solution has to be streets aren't for living. And we need to enforce anti-camping laws at the statewide level so that it's not left up to individual jurisdictions. It's one of the few areas where I think we shouldn't be leaving it up to local jurisdictions, because you're just playing whack-a-mole with people who are going to live and die on the streets. And I'll tell you what, you brought up my father who tragically died by suicide, but I'll tell you this, if he hadn't, it was only a matter of time until he would have ended up on the streets. And I would hope to God I had a government that said, sir, we have shelter and housing and treatment for you, but you cannot live and die here. I would hope that I had that sort of a government, as opposed to what we have right now, which quite frankly is, there's a reason why 7 people a day are dying on the streets of Los Angeles County. And we can stop that tomorrow. And I think it's a huge crisis in leadership that we haven't.
It's like you talked about the kind of the cookie and beer effect. It's like it feels so good to say, let people live wherever they want, but that's someone's child, that's someone's sibling, that's someone's parent. That we're just saying, no, let them die on the street, let them live where they want to live. Like, how is that the compassionate thing to do? I've never fully understood that argument.
Living in a tent is not a progressive value. It's just not. And I'll tell you what, I don't know if this gives me street cred or not, or just maybe I was, it took me a while to sort of get to this realization, but I was a housing first person for many, many years. Made sense to me. You got to build it. You got to have a full on, home for everybody to go to before you can do anything else. And we've seen it fail year after year. We've seen over the last 15 years homelessness go up 1,000%, right? You've seen it escalate and all these people dying. And I think we just, again, I'm like a broken record on it, but we have to be honest with ourselves and say, look, it's housing also. It's housing and treatment. It is not housing first, because you can take somebody and put them in a very nice apartment. And if they are still suffering from mental illness and from addiction or from physical maladies that need to be fixed, it's not going to fix the situation. It has to be both of those things.
It's not a money issue.
No.
This is a leadership issue.
Yep.
And that's what my big takeaway on this issue that I've heard for you basically to say, and I really want to drive that home. And you seem to be the leader to help us get through this.
We've taxed ourselves to the amount of $24 billion. It is not a money issue.
No.
There's no more money to throw at it.
Yeah.
But the problem is when you spend $100,000 clearing an encampment, getting somebody into housing, possibly getting them into treatment, maybe they're doing well 30 days out, but they have the option to return to the street, and they do return to the street. Not only is that a tragic outcome for that person most of the time, but you just lit $100,000 on fire. It's not a money issue, it's a leadership issue.
And taking $500,000 to build a small home.
Oh, that would be great, Derek. I wish. No, literally, I mean, a lot of these developments are running 900, a million,
Yeah.
a million one a door. And the tragedy is not so much, yeah, I mean, that's a crazy amount of money to light on fire for that. But the tragedy is that $1 million should house 10 people.
Yeah.
Not one person or one family. That's the ultimate tragedy at the end of the day. Yes, it's money, but it's money. Money is not a tragedy. Death is a tragedy.
100%.
Addiction is a tragedy, right? And God, we got to save money to save lives. Let's put it that way.
Love that.
Let's put it that way.
I think it's a great way to get towards the end of our conversation.
Yeah.
I think it really works. All right, Mike, we got an election on June 2nd.
Yeah.
This is your pitch. Why you? We've heard so many good things, but let it really, let's dial it in. Why you?
Ask yourself a very simple question. Is this the California that you want to live in or that you remember from when you were much younger? If you're happy with how things are, you don't think anything needs to change, then that's fine. But if you honestly think about it and you say, my groceries are too expensive, my gas is too expensive, my rent is too expensive, I spend way too many hours of the day commuting to and from work because I can't afford to live anywhere close to where I am. I'm concerned that my kids won't be able to rent an apartment, let alone buy a home anywhere close to where they grew up. I spend too much of my time trying to keep my business running, or the business I work for is struggling and I'm at heavy chance of losing a job. Am I concerned by not only what it's doing to people who are living and dying on the streets of California, but what it's doing to my community when my children have to walk over encampments, have to walk over people passed out on the sidewalk who badly need our help as a society and we're neglecting them? Do you want to make sure when you call 911 that the police or the firefighters can not only show up in a timely manner, but can be properly funded to safely do the work that they need to do on your behalf and on behalf of your community? Are you tired of basics like it rains, like it just did a couple of minutes ago, and now it's probably not safe to go into the ocean for 3 days when we can easily put secondary stormwater treatment on our drains? If these things could all do better for you, if these things could improve, and if you don't think that the way the parties are operating right now is solving that for you, then you got to look for another way. You got to look for somebody who, whether it's 1992 or now, can say, it's the economy, stupid, right? We can respect our California values. We can respect the way people want to live, who they want to love, the gender they want to identify with, the way they want to live their lives. But at the end of the day, people worry about their paycheck. People worry about their job. They worry about their business. They worry about public safety. They worry about healthcare. They worry about education. And they worry about how clean their drinking water is and how clean the water is, or clean the air is that they breathe. I think that's what you got to look at when you're making the decision. And I think I fit the bill.
So these are quick questions, quick answers. Are we ready for the World Cup?
I am ready for it in that I'm excited. Logistically, are we ready? Unfortunately, no.
Okay, got it. How about the Olympics?
Same problem, and even in a bigger way.
Really?
We got a lot of work to do.
Okay.
Got a lot of work to do.
All right. Well, hopefully you'll be in office and soon enough and to help
100%.
fix those things. I got to ask you your favorite baseball team.
Dodgers.
You have a favorite player?
Growing up, my favorite was Steve Garvey. Right now, it's close between Will Smith and Mookie Betts. I love when Mookie made that move to shortstop and just killed it better than he'd ever done anything before. I mean, how amazing. But I do love a good catcher too, man. I mean, Will Smith is great.
Yeah, he is fantastic.
Yeah.
Big Dodger fans over here, so we're glad to hear that.
Good.
So Dodger fans know that Mike Newhouse has your back.
That's right.
We are in your space, your studio, where you make music.
Yeah.
What is the best live music venue here in Los Angeles? This is one that I've debated people, and I'm curious your thoughts.
The Whiskey and the Troubadour go neck and neck.
Okay.
I mean, I've been going to see shows at the Whiskey since I was about 15 years old. legendary space and just set up so well for sound.
Yeah.
But the Troubadour is God, it's special also. I've seen a lot of good shows there. Both are in the district, so
Okay.
I'm going to say a tie.
You a SoFi Stadium fan for concerts, or is that we should be doing more football and sports in the
Both. SoFi is fantastic. They did a great job down there in Inglewood. I'm happy to have the support of Alex Padilla, who's a councilman down there.
Nice.
He's a really wonderful guy, but Inglewood's doing a lot of things right, and SoFi is a great place to see a game and a show if you haven't been. Just best stadium I've ever been to, for sure.
Very cool.
Yeah.
All right. Other than your own band, which I want to plug actually, the
Sure.
Potential Suitors.
That's right.
This is your new album.
That is.
Mike's not very busy these days, running a law practice, a brokerage, running for California State. He also has released an album with his band, which is very cool. Thank you for this gift.
Absolutely.
So other than your own, who is your favorite LA-based band?
Yeah, so I'm going to go in the past on this one because I just think they're incomparable, but Guns N' Roses and The Doors are the two greatest LA bands of all time. We could get into recent bands that I love, but it's just the fact that, those two bands, and then, they both started at the Whiskey.
Yeah,
So
they did.
maybe the Whiskey edges the Troubadour on that, but they're both pretty
It's a
amazing
wonderful thing
venues.
now that we have YouTube. You can go back and watch old shows of Guns N' Roses, like their first shows, like at the Ritz and at the Whiskey and so on. It's cool.
You know what's crazy is one of my huge passions is not only playing music but going to shows. I've probably been to I've been to well over 1,000 shows in my life. Started spending every penny I had when I worked and after rent and after car payment were taken care of, I'd go to as many shows as I could, right? Starting when I was about 14 years old. So the great thing about being able to see all this stuff on YouTube is a bunch of shows I was going to when I was 15, 16, 17, 18 years old. I've found them.
That's so
and being able to show my kids when I talk about seeing, Pearl Jam in 91, or you talk about seeing Nirvana in 91, having seen Guns N' Roses in 88, or Rage Against the Machine, the third show they ever played when they opened for Pearl Jam at the Palladium when I saw them. By the way, honorable mention, Hollywood Palladium, fantastic venue in LA. But the point is, I can actually watch those shows now. It's unbelievable because somebody did record it back then on some VHS tape, and now it's up there. It's really, really unbelievable. And if you go to, setlist.fm, you can actually see the set list from those shows to refresh your own memory, which is really just an amazing, amazing thing.
Libby Jarrett, you're a professor at real estate law at CSUN. You ever see Rage Against the Machine's first concert at CSUN that they did?
Oh,
it's so cool.
It's amazing.
Like they're just kids and they're doing it. It's absolutely incredible.
That was literally at that show. I was at the Palladium seeing Pearl Jam in April, May of '92. Band comes out, says this is our I think it was their third show. This is our third show. We're called Rage Against the Machine, and the place within 2 songs, the place was nuts. They were stars immediately. It was such an amazing show. I mean, seeing Tom Morello and it was like he invented a whole genre of music, and it was unbelievable.
Well, we'll have to add CSUN as a great venue for music because Rage Against the Machine clearly did it.
Well, Whiskey. Small fact about Derek: you were how old?
It was at the Roxy.
Oh, the Roxy.
I rapped
Roxy.
when I was 13
Whiskey.
years old. I had a small music career. I was a buddy of mine's karate teacher was a music producer, and he asked me. He said, "Hey, we're looking for a young kid to be a rapper. You play a runaway on this this rap on this album for this rock band." So I had a quick stint at the Roxy where I performed. I was about 12 years old. The challenge was this was 1992 and they were a hair band. So the hair band scene was kind of going together, and a gentleman named Kurt Cobain came around and kind of killed those dreams for a lot of the hair metal bands. So my career as a rapper for a hair band, hair metal band didn't last.
Is there
long.
footage of that somewhere?
There's a CD, actually. I will send you the link on my
YouTube. I gotta hear it.
And you see you hear our parents. They're being recorded too.
Yes.
At the beginning.
Yes. I'll send you a link, and maybe we can jam together one day.
That'd be amazing.
There's a song called David by a band called Foolish Pleasure, and I hope those guys are listening because
they're out there.
We're representing that. Yeah. So
super fun.
anyhow, Mike, thank you. This was so cool.
Thank
So
you for
great to
having
meet you and to be here.
And all best of luck to you.
Thank you.
And if we want to donate to your campaign, tell us where we can go to do that.
Please go to Newhouse, the number 4, ca.com. You'll see a nice big green button there that says donate on the website. Check us out. We'd love your support. Make sure to vote as soon as you can. You'll be getting ballots in the mail probably by May 5th. You got to vote before June 2nd, but vote early, my friends. Vote early.
Right on. Thank you.
Thank you again.
If you have a property here in the greater Los Angeles area and it needs management, please go to KIGPM.com. That's KIG Property Management, KIGPM.com. And if you have questions about insurance and want to help tackle some of the insurance issues that we talked about on the show, please feel free to reach out to me at Karpel Insurance. That's KARPEL Insurance.com. And don't forget, June 2nd, we have an election. Go research, go look up Mike, learn all about him. Go to Newhouse4ca.com. Thank you so much for joining. We'll see you again soon.